Hello, everyone. I'm currently recording from on campus, so I just want to check that I'm coming through, that you can all hear me. So just let me know if you can hear me talking, and maybe I'll type it too. Oh, thanks, Sonia. I was a little bit worried there. It's my sort of work PC, and I was just double checking everything was right, and it's also a PC, so just having to a little bit of a change in brain gear. So this week we're going to start looking at PHP, which is a server-side language. So any code you write, it's actually running on the web server, not the client's computer. But before we start, I've had a lot of questions regarding JavaScript tasks. So I thought what I'll do is I'll just invite you to ask me any immediate questions now. And then towards the end of the chat, if we've got enough time, I'm happy to answer some more questions too. Now, one thing, I made a bit of a mistake. I sent out an email to students saying, can I demonstrate your assignment in today's chat? I didn't get many responses, and then I realized that it was still in my drafts folder. So I thought I'd sent it, but I hadn't. So I'm going to resend it, and hopefully next week, or maybe what I might do is I might record. I'll send out the request asking students if I can demonstrate their assignments, and I might do like a recording, like a sort of showcase where I just run through some things, and hopefully I'll get that done before the deadline so that you'll have some benefit. So I'll throw it back over to you. So are there any immediate questions? There are a couple of things that I thought I'd just bring to your attention. So I'm just going to open up brackets and just maybe just some dummy code. Smaller. So, oops. Okay, so a couple of things I just want to draw your attention. When you're creating a function, you might have something like, say, those time buttons. So button on click equals I'll just put that in quotes. So this will update the movie ID, day and hour. Now, one thing you shouldn't be doing is just say, let's just say this is the action movie playing, we'll just say Saturday, 9 p.m. Don't say have, function number 32 or like ACT MUN T21. What I'm trying to say is don't write multiple functions that are doing the same job. it's just better to say update, say booking, and then just pass, you know, the action movie, Monday, just converting to 21-hour time in my head, and I've just used double quotes there, so I'll just use single quotes there. So that's how you do the buttons. Just put the hidden fields in there, and then later on in the JavaScript, have function and then have these as parameters. So movie ID, day, hour. So this means you only write one function that updates the fields. So I'm just going to abbreviate document get element by ID. Whatever your hidden field for the movie ID is, so it might be movie ID hidden dot value, because you want to update the value of that field, equals movie ID. And do the same thing for the day and the hour. And that way you have just one function that updates all three fields. Let's paste that, just so it's a little bit clearer. So that would be the day, and that would be the hour. So instead of having, say, 21 functions doing all the same thing, you've just got one function that will update the three price fields. And what you're doing is each button has got different parameters. So the action movie that plays on Monday at 2100 hours, you're just passing those parameters to the single function. And if you make any mistakes, you just update one function. You're not updating 31 different functions. Is that clear? I've just helped a couple of students who were doing that. And whilst I'm waiting for a reply, I'll just talk about the select boxes. So you'll have something like, you know, the number of first class adult seats. You'll have a nicer label there though. And, you know, a drop down. I'll just use the letter V for a drop down thing. So first class adult, first class child seats, another drop down field. So what you'll have is you'll have 6 fields in all. And whenever any one of these change, you can have a function. Let's say update price. And you don't need any parameters here, because whenever you change any one of these drop-down boxes, you actually want to recalculate the entire price. So the logic's quite simple. So first class adult, first class child. So you might say so this is just one way of doing it. You might say total, or say total equals 0, and then total plus equals document get element by ID, the number of adult seats, because the number of seats selected will be in that field, and how much are the first class seats? Let's just say they're $30. I think they're $30, and then you just basically so you repeat that for each one of the seats. And by the end of this, total will be equal, I think they're $25. You'll work out how expensive those seats are, and then you can say document get element by ID, total equals total. So whatever number this is, when you change any one of these using the onChange event, every one of these calls the same function, update price, and the final line of update price will just assign the span total equal to whatever this total is. So what I'm doing is I'm being consistent with my names. So the ID of total is reflective of this box here as well. Andre, yes, you do need to make sure the prices account the discount as well. So there's a little bit more logic required. So you'd need to have a look at these fields as well. So at the moment, I'm saying get all 6 of these, but also in update price, you'll also need to look at these 3 fields. Well, actually, no, scratch that. You actually only need to look at the hour and the day to work out whether it's a discount session or a full price session. Or an alternative way of doing it is to have a big price array where you put the numbers in for everything. But one of the better ways, more compact ways, is to have a discount array and a full price array, and then just work out whether the screening is going to be full price or discount. So there's many ways of doing it this, and I don't want to sort of give too much away because I'd like to see which way people take it, whether they go the full Monty, so to speak, or whether they work out whether a session is discount or full price. So are there any questions? If there aren't, I'll start with the PHP Tutor Lab. And as I said, if there's time, we'll definitely come back and answer some JavaScript questions. And just looking at the timetable, so after tonight's chat, I'll send out some emails asking some key students if I can showcase their assignment. I've got a few yeses so far, but I'll wait to hear from everyone so I can just show bits and pieces of everyone's assignment. So I'll take this off screen now. And hide it below all these windows. And one thing I think I'm not sure if you're going to be getting it this week or next week, but you should start to be receiving notices from RMIT asking you to fill in the online feedback form. So please fill that in. And the other thing is, even if it's good or bad, if you can write some constructive comments, often the comments prove very helpful, because we can actually have a look at specific things which you think we're doing well, and also things that could be improved. So scores are nice, but written feedback is also very helpful. So there are a couple of questions. So the first one, I think I gave it away in the introduction. PHP code is executed server-side, not client-side, and that means that it runs on the server. So the server will be waiting for a page request from a client. They receive an order, so it's a bit like working in the kitchen at the back of a restaurant. Or at McDonald's, you're really just receiving orders, you're making things, and then you're just delivering them back to the client. You don't really have any real-time interaction with the client. It's you receive a request, do some processing, and spit the response back onto the internet. So what this means is PHP code is not viewable like JavaScript, because the server turns all of the PHP code into either HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. There is no, once the PHP file leaves the server, all the PHP code has been processed, and no programming can take place after the page leaves the server. So this is one trick whenever I'm programming in PHP. I physically, mentally picture the server running the code, and knowing that all the PHP has to finish before the client gets to look at it. I'm going to throw this question over to you. I'd like to see how many people know the answer to this question. If you don't know the answer, just have a think about the file extension of your files from week 2 onwards, and hopefully the answer will be very obvious. So can you mix HTML script and PHP? Okay. Oh, I've highlighted the wrong piece. Okay. The drama I'm creating, I'll be asking this question down here. This is the question I want you to think about. So Andre, yes, it is a mix. So you can have, it's a bit like HTML, and then whenever you have some PHP code, you open a PHP tag, and then the PHP engine will know to basically pass the instructions rather than outputting literal characters into the web page. Aramith, yep, thank you very much. I hate it when I jump ahead in my own head. Aramith's just answering this question down here. So how we switch between HTML and PHP, we just need these tags. But just one little tip: if you're sort of echo, if you want to do something like this, you can actually cross that out, put in an equal sign, get rid of that, and get rid of that. And you can just that's just basically shorthand for PHP echo, and you can even have functions there. So I think you can even say something like trim name or something like that. You may need a semicolon for that. I'm not 100% sure. but these are called short tags. These were introduced as standard a few editions of PHP. I think they've been there for at least 5 years, maybe longer. Um, so I would say most PHP servers will support this short tag. But if you ever get an error, just go back to that notation. Yeah, so I'm hoping this is kind of like a cute. Sometimes when you're writing an exam, you need like a 1 or 2 mark question because you've got some big questions and you've just got a little question. You've got 1 mark left over in a section, and something like this, could be 2 marks. Like 1, have you answered it correctly, and 2, have you explained why? So if you think about your PHP files since week 2 inside the A2 folder, they only have HTML script in it. So what happens is that file is sent to the PHP processor. The PHP processor looks through it, sees there's no PHP instructions, and then just puts it out on the internet. So there's a little bit of a delay because the PHP processor is looking through the file, but it's not too much of a time delay. PHP, instead of saying var a, I'll just delete this. So instead of saying var a, in PHP, what we do is we just say $a instead. PHP is also a weakly typed language, so just bear in mind, just as we can save time not worrying about casting in JavaScript, we don't have to worry too much in PHP either. There is a downside that sometimes you might pass a variable, maybe a Boolean or a number, and it will, the PHP engine will think, okay, you want me to add a blank string and multiply a blank string by 5. I'm going to assume that blank string is 0 and multiply it by 5. So just watch out. Sometimes PHP will make a decision you're not happy with, and you'll get a strange result. So I've got some code examples here. These, I'm pretty sure we covered these in the lecture, but we might as well have another look at them. So I'd just like you to have a look. We'll cover this one first. I just want, now this is a ternary operator. So what I'm doing is I'm saying if A equals B, echo correct, else echo incorrect. But it's a ternary operator, so I can say echo and then ask the question. Does A equal B? If it does, correct. If not, incorrect. So I'd just like to know whether the first line is going to echo correct or incorrect. So Nathan's saying correct. Okay, everyone's saying correct. And I'm hoping you're all saying correct because you recognize that 5, the integer 5, is equal in value to the integer 5.0. So in memory, in physical memory, this number is going to look very different to this number. This is going to be a floating point number, so it'll have different bits set, but essentially PHP will work out that they are the same value. So this one does return correct. And so what would the second one do? Oh, Aramith, you've jumped the gun. So I'll just let some others maybe guess incorrectly. Oops, bit of a hint there. So so Nathan's also joining in with Aramith, as is Alexander. So this second one is incorrect because there are three equal signs. And what we've got is we've got 5 as an integer is exactly the same as 5.0. So even though the values are the same, the types are different. So PHP has recognized that these two types are not identical. So this is returning false. In Java, they actually compare memory locations. So, you can have two things which are exactly the same value and type. So that's like a fourth level, but I don't think PHP goes that far. So not unless you're getting into class-based programming, which you can do in PHP. So just bear in mind, this is not as exact as, say, Java, where it's comparing memory locations. It's really just comparing the value and also comparing the type as well. And the last one, I've included this because this does happen a lot. I did this fairly recently. I had a bug in my code, couldn't work out why it was returning correct. I would just like to know if anyone can tell me, why is this returning correct? And more to the point, why would this return correct in this case if B was 15? Just so we're clear, if B is 15, this will return correct as well. Yep. Yep, these all look like good answers. Tim, I'm not sure. I think you may be the odd one out there. I'm using the equality operator. It's the assignment operator. You may have just misspoke one of those words there. So what's happening here is A was 5, but B is whatever the value of this one is. So I'll put it back the way it was. So what happens is A is changed to 5.0. So it's even been recast. And because 5 is greater than 0, 5 is cast as a Boolean because this operator is expecting a Boolean to be returned. So just to let you know, if that was 0 and that was 0.0, or if that was 5, if A equals B, A will be assigned the value 0. And because this is a Boolean operator, 0 will get cast to false. So if B is 0, incorrect will be returned. So we've actually got a lot of casting. We've got an integer being recast as a float, and then this whole thing is recast as a Boolean. So that can be a very fertile bed of error generating code, which never fails to catch me out. I always think I've made my last mistake there, but it always pops up. So I've got a second example here, and like JavaScript, we can actually ask PHP to generate code for us. So when I say code, I mean HTML code, and I think this is probably quite a useful application. And the advantage of getting PHP to generate the code rather than JavaScript, you're not reliant on the client having JavaScript enabled. And this generation of code is invisible to the user. As far as the user knows, they have received a chunk of HTML. There's no PHP code shown. So I'd like to get some guesses. Does anybody know what this code is generating? I mean, I'll give you a bit of clue. It's a table. Alexander, your thinking is spot on, Alexander. It is a multiplication table. Thanks for your honesty, Benjamin. Yep, so all the A's have it, all the A students. Alexander, Aramith. Oh, and was it Andre? Did you pop in there? Tim's got it right this time. Yep, Andre's in there as well. Yeah, so what this is doing is we've got an inner loop. So let's have a look at the I loop. So these are the rows, if you like. So I'm going from 1 to 12, and I'm echoing out a TR. Then I'm doing something inside, and then I'm closing the TR. So this is going to print 12 rows. And then inside each row, I'm going to have 12 cells. And I'm going to and then I'm going to pop the value I times j. So the very first row will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then the next row, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. And this keeps going until I get to the final row, which is the 12, 24, 36, all the way up to 144. So more efficient than, sorry, more reliable than JavaScript because it's running on the server, but just be aware that the server is doing the work and not the client. So the server is not pushing this work onto the client. So it's safer, but a little bit more intense for the server to run. I've got another example here. So this one's a little bit more complicated and is just showing what you can do with a drop-down box. So you may have to quickly look up what opt groups were in a drop-down field. And if I can get some description of what this will look like. Oh, no problems, Miroslav. It's good to see you. Oh, this is another thing. We'll be covering this in more detail soon. But what I've got here is I've got a 2D array. So in JavaScript, we had to have an object. We had to have curly braces, but in PHP, we just stick with square brackets. And also keys have to be quoted in PHP. And instead of the colon character, we have to use the, it's called the fat arrow. And it's just basically the equal sign and a greater than sign. So Andre's got a good reply. I'm just a little bit curious about this idea of select table. Maybe you said selectable or select box. So Tim's saying a drop-down box with 4 opt groups. That's right. So there'll be a kind of like a sort of almost like a heading, and there will be 3 months in each heading. So you can, you know, you can sort of one of the problems with drop-down boxes is if you've got a lot of options together, it's quite hard to read. But if you can break them up into subgroups, it becomes easier to read. So have a practice of that. Pop that code in to some PHP file, and you should see a nice drop-down box. The JavaScript has got a for in loop, and PHP uses a for each loop, which is the syntax is a little bit trickier because what we do is we put the array first. So we say for each seasons, and then we say we're going to break up the seasons into the key season and value. So whatever the season is. So in this case, season will be autumn, winter, spring, and summer. And then we've got an inner for each loop. And this time we don't actually need a key because these are indexed arrays. And we can say for each months, because that's what these inner arrays are. And what we want to do is we want to return each one of these items as a single element, and these are individually just 1 month. And so if you stick with keys, names of these variables reflecting what they actually mean, it does mean when you write something like this, the code is easier to read. So any questions with these 3 code samples? This last one is a little bit more complex. Miroslav's asking, would it be good practice to add comments as per the overcoding? Yes, that's a good thing. Comments are very good for future you, not just other developers. Sometimes I'll return to my code quite clueless as to what I was thinking a month ago. In fact, that's recently happened. I've been trying to debug a piece of code I've been writing, and I'm not sure that a comment would have helped me, to be honest, but I realized that I had forgotten something that I didn't think I would have forgotten about 2 months ago. But yeah, it stopped me from getting my code to work completely. So the next option we're going to look at is creating module functions. So whenever you're typing code and you think, and this is quite relevant to websites where you've got more than one page and you want to keep them all looking the same, you can create a module file and have some functions as well. So what you can do is you can include these module files into another file, and it helps to keep sort of code separate. So maybe you've got a file with all your functions, just like your JavaScript function file called script.js. And what I'm asking you to do in assignment 4, I'm just trying to get that right. I want you to put all your PHP functions in a file called tools.php, and then include that file into your main page. And when you do this, it means that your main code will actually be cleaner. you won't be mixing lots of PHP functions in with your HTML. So that's this is a nice way to keep things tidy. So even though this is probably not as relevant, because if you've got multiple web pages, you might want to have common templates just so all the pages look the same. But what I've got here is I've got a function that will take a string, and it may refer to a movies object. So if you set up a movies object to contain the movies and the prices and the times, PHP needs you to preface any variables that are global, which exist outside this function with the global keyword. Java just assumes that any object that's not in here is located outside, but PHP is a bit strange that way. You actually have to tell the function that this variable exists outside the function. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking a string and I'm echoing out a chunk of HTML. So this is actually, I'll just improve this actually. So this is movie. I should really be more consistent with my keys. How can I tell you guys to be consistent and not be consistent myself? Just slapping myself on the wrist there. Maybe I had a problem with this was probably it. I probably may have done this correctly. Oh no, it just fits. That's good. So if you name your posters, so let's just say, what's the action movie? It's is it the Avengers movie? I forget what I posted. So if you say poster act.png, you can actually write a function that will pull in the right poster without needing to know exactly what its name is. So I'm assuming that all the poster images have been called poster underscore movie ID code.png. And that way I can write a function called movie panel that takes the movie ID function, and this panel will then just pull in all the correct content that is has been set up in a movies object element. Black Diamond, that's got a feeling that might be the next Star Wars film. I can't remember why I wrote Black Diamond. I tend to like just see something online and pop it in. I'll have to Google that, see what I'm doing. And if your movies object's been set up correctly, you might have a little branch saying when is that particular movie screening, and you can break that subarray up as day. So the key might be day and the hour is what day that movie is playing. We can do this because the movie is only playing once per day, so there's a one-to-one relationship. A bigger cinema, obviously, you may have another array. So I've tried to make this fairly simple. The cinema only has one cinema, so one screen, so it can only play one movie at a time, and it will only play one movie, one movie type per day. So there's a lots of one-to-one, which may not work for a larger cinema chain. But a larger cinema chain would use a database to retrieve this sort of information. Another thing I'm doing, which might not be quite so obvious, is I am echoing out code when this is inside a here notation block. So these carriage returns here are being printed out. So the indentation of this block of code is retained. So that's one nice little feature. But if you are echoing out a string, you will have to put in a line feed. Otherwise, all of these tags, like this one, will, and let's put one there as well. Otherwise, these will be put on the same line. So it will just be one sort of line of code. So what this does is this makes your code slightly nicer when you view the source code. So I hope I've answered this question a little bit. If you use the here dot notation, one thing you get is also you can use both the quote characters. So you can use the big ones and the little ones. You don't have to worry about escaping one of them. Whereas when you echo a string, you actually have to, you can't have, the big quotes inside the string because that closes that one. You would have to escape it like that, which makes things a little bit messy. So the here dot notation is very neat that way. Also, this is such an easy problem. You can't have the closing delimiter there, and you can't have any space characters after. This is very, very strict. So when you're closing this string, so whatever this is, just pop it there. And that hopefully you will have guessed that this can be anything as long as it's down here at the end and it doesn't occur anywhere in the string. So I'm just checking Miroslav. Oh, you're saying cool. Okay. I just noticed you added something there. So a couple of other questions. I'm assuming that the movie object is in tools.php and it's right at the beginning of the file or near the top. So the higher up it is, the more code has access to that variable. And this is a little quirk. It may be present in other languages, but variables outside functions do not, scope does not automatically pass into those functions. So we need to say global if ever we need access to an object. There are a couple of super global variables which don't obey this rule. They kind of like have a bold pass. So we've got the post array and the get array and some other super global arrays. But we'll be looking at those in more detail next week. So I'll give you a little bit of a breather whilst I take a couple of sips. And if you've got any questions about any of these exercises, please shout out. And I'll just flip over to the lab just to see what we've got planned next. So Samuel, you're just saying you're getting some sound glitches. That's a bit of a worry because I'm at RMIT and they have amazing broadband. I'm even plugged in to their Ethernet, so hopefully it might just be me getting a drink of water, or maybe just your connection. Oh, Benjamin, you're saying you've got some audio problems as well. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. Okay, yes, one thing I'm doing is I'm relying on the inbuilt speaker. That was another thing I forgot to ask. I've got like a nice microphone at home. So if the sound is not as good, I might bring in my microphone. Because what's happened is I've got a lot of work on campus on Wednesday, and I was filling in shifts and realized, oh, I won't have enough time to go home. So I was actually thinking, well, the broadband's better at RMIT, so maybe it's not such a bad thing. But I'll bring in my microphone so the sound is also good next week. Actually, I'll just check it. I might be able to boost the microphone. That was genuine bumps there. I was just popping things. Oh, Microsoft, what are you doing? Ah, dearie me. So I'm just wandering around Windows 10. I think it's pretty clear that I tend to use a Mac. And I'm really surprised that microphone is not part of sound on a Mac. Oh, here we go. No, I just want the volume. Now I've got the microphone on full. Is this any better? I've just popped in some microphone boost. Yeah, so I managed to find it. It was buried. It was buried deep. I think I had to open 3 windows to get to the microphone. And even on the 3rd window, it's like the 3rd tab along. So I've just boosted. So it's on maximum, and there's also another thing called microphone boost. So hopefully the sound is going to be better. But I will bring my microphone in next week. So I'm just closing all these control panel windows now. So I'm bringing the lab window in now. So as part of assignment 4, so I'd like you to create tools.php. This will help markers as well. So if all your functions are in tools.php, we don't have to go wandering around too much to find all your your functions, and it also helps to keep your main code clean and tidy. Some of you may be doing some advanced stuff, so if you are using classes and things like that, that's fine. I recommend it only if you're an advanced student. Don't do it if you think it's going to get you extra marks. When you include this file near the top of your page, that means that the rest of your page which follows will have access to those functions. And one thing we'd like you to do is to create a sort of debug module down the bottom of the page that shows what's inside the get array and the post array and the session array. As I said, we will be covering that next week. But if you look at the testing script for assignment 3, I'll just pull that up. So I'll just pull in, I think this is the processing script. What this is doing is, this is essentially, it's basically looking at, have you got anything in the post array? So what we're after is we want to see what's coming through via post, and I've actually got some code here showing you that. And this should give you a little bit of feedback on your form to see if you've got the right fields. Now, PHP doesn't know what type of fields the data is coming from. All PHP knows is something with the name A0 has the value B, and so it doesn't know whether this was an input box, a hidden field, or a drop-down box. All it knows is an element with a name and value has come through to the PHP processing. If you need, if you're interested, right, I'm just trying to remember. Sorry, I'll have to check this. I really should have a little thing down here reminding me what it is. If you put something up here, I forget what it is, it will actually show you the source code. So maybe it's view, maybe view equals source. I'm just kind of guessing here. Ah, so obvious. Yeah, this is a little tip. If you actually want to see the source code of this script, it's all here, and this is quite relevant for the tute. So I've got error reporting as 0, so I've turned error reporting completely off. I'd like you to turn it on to something slightly nicer. So being able to see the errors and the warnings and any parsing issues, you can set the error reporting like this so that it doesn't process any notices or some minor warnings. So you can sort of have E all, which reports everything, or you can turn it off completely, which is good for like a production server. So you don't want hackers gaining information on your website. So what I've got is I've got quite a bit of PHP. It's I won't say it's the tidiest function, but what I've got is I've got some functions near the top. This function is also very handy for echoing out data. Oh, video's gone, is it? Sorry about that. Let me just Let me just check. I'm seeing some positive feedback my end, but I'll tell you what, I'll stop the screen and start the screen share again. Okay, I'll mute the audio. Mute the camera. Oh, it's back. Excellent. Okay. Why is my feedback not coming back? Oh, now it's back. Now the joys of the internet. Okay, sorry about that. So this is the processing page. If you tack !mark view source on the end, you get to see the source code. And I think someone let me know today that there were some things are out of date. Now see this is actually for a different assignment. So I sometimes have more than one assignment running at any one time. So so that's for a different assignment, but yours should, I'm hoping I've got the right testing script. Have I got this right? It's actually Leonardo test, isn't it? Leonardo test. Can anyone just quickly tell me what the name of the processing script that this assignment is? I realize I got the wrong one. I'll start to look through it through my Google form. I mean Google Docs. It's called form test, is it? Okay. No, not going there. Oh, Leonardo form test, right. That's too many words here. Okay. Okay, perfect. So similar thing, if you tack on view source on the end, you get to see the page source. So this is the code that actually prints out the code. So I actually want you to put something like this in your footer in a debug module, and it will basically echo out. So this line here is this line here, and this line here is all the way down here. So it's a little bit meta. There's a kind of like model of the code inside the code. I've got a function here which allows me to print out a variable that's an array. So I get to see the structure as well because it's inside pre-tags. So this is like pre-formatted HTML inside. And what I've got here is correct post data. And today, I think, or maybe last night, I updated this advice. So it needs to be a hidden 3-character digit, 3-character code in 24-hour time. Legal values are T12, T15, T18, T21. So before that was a 2-char digit, or what was it, a 2-digit thing. But I think everything else is correct. I was wondering whether that was correct, but I think that's the correct code as well. So it gives you some advice. So if your data is not correct, you can update that. But what I've got here is a 2D array. So these are the movies, these are the seats, and that's the customer detail. So I've got a lot of data coming from your form, and it needs to be treated. It needs to be captured in separate arrays, not all mixed together. As I said, this code, it's not it's basically just hacked together. I rarely review my code unless I make some major changes. But I'm hoping you can see I've sort of set up some functions near the top, and then after I set up all my functions, then I start echoing out HTML. So if you think about a chef in a kitchen, the chef will receive an order, start to make preparation, and only once everything is prepared will the chef start plating up HTML on the plate, so to speak. And you'll see there's a bit of a mix of JavaScript in there because I'll be delivering that to the customer. But this is pretty much the page. It changes depending on what happened there. It'll basically change depending on what's been posted, and it'll give it'll call different functions to give you different feedback in different cases. So I've tried to keep this as clean as I can by putting all the messiness inside functions up here. I'll just get rid of that. That looks a little bit better. So yes, that's what I was just trying to do, just trying to explain why I'd like you to create some modules and also include those modules inside tools.php, just to keep your code nice and clean. So feel free to chip in any questions on exercise 1, and I'll move on to exercise 2, which is error reporting. So this one's fairly simple. Please familiarize yourselves with this function. And if you're being annoyed by trivial notices, then you can turn them off. But I do recommend that you not turn anything more serious than these off. So this is a really good setting to have near the top of your file. Now what I've got here is I've sort of started you off with a function that determines whether a session or a screening is going to be a full or discount screening. And so the idea is you supply a day and an hour to this function, and this function will basically check to see whether you know, it'll return the string discount if it's a discount session, or it will return the string full if it's a full price session. So I've started you off, if the day is Monday or the day is Wednesday, then it doesn't matter what time it is, it will return the string discount, because on Mondays and Wednesdays, all sessions are discount sessions. You might want to then say, maybe look at the weekend. So if you know, it's a Saturday or Sunday, you're guaranteed that it's going to be full price. It doesn't matter what time it's playing, it's going to be full price. Once that's done, then you're left with just the weekdays. And so you might want to think, well, if the time is 12 o'clock, then it's going to be a discount. But that's because you've eliminated all the weekend times. So you know only the weekdays at 12 o'clock are left. And if you keep returning, just bear in mind what times are left over, and you should be able to get right down to the bottom and observe all cases. Now, one thing this code doesn't check for is invalid times or invalid days. So if you want to do a test of that, you can also obviously check to see that day is equal to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, else return false. And also check those 4 times as well. And I've got some code here to just see whether your function is working. So if you have an array of days, and notice I've got a nonsense day here and an array of times, and I've also got a nonsense time here just to check to see that it's returning false properly. Then you can say for each day is day and for each hour is hour, and then just echo out a paragraph just to make sure that it runs through every possibility and your function will return the right thing or not. In PHP, single quotes mean any character inside is treated literally. So what I'm doing here, this is the complex joining strings together with spaces. This string is pretty tedious, but when you use double quotes, this variable $day, you don't need to break out of the quotes. It will be PHP will recognize that is a variable, and it's a lot neater than breaking up the days into substrings. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for functions, but you may be able to get away with sometimes you can wrap that inside curly braces. But I generally just anything more complex than a variable, I pop outside of the string. So are there any questions about this function and also writing some testing code? So that you can verify that your function is working perfectly before you pop it into your assignment code. Because actually, this is another thing. I gave you some advice about the JavaScript. I still got brackets open. One thing you can do with the JavaScript, so if you like, you're hard coding this, but you could actually have another parameter. No, actually, that wouldn't be good because mischievous people can then modify this code and get it to return a discount. Yeah, there's many different ways of doing this, and it's part of the fun or part of the pain of when you are writing this update price, of working out what's the best and most efficient way of working out whether a screening given a day and time is actually a discount session or not. So yeah, once you write something in JavaScript, you can almost translate it into PHP without too much hard work. And it also goes the other way. If you write something in PHP, you can turn it into JavaScript pretty easily. So Tim, you're asking, are you rewriting these hard-coded buttons in PHP? I would strongly recommend looking at that. Just tackle one thing at a time. Don't tackle everything. You might find that if you have a for loop, you can just quickly echo out all the buttons that are associated with that movie. But don't be in a rush to update everything all at once. I would do the stuff that's going to get you marks first, and then come back and do this later. Now, I think I've actually got some extra goodies inside assignment 4, which I'll share with you. And I'll make that full screen. Oh, here we go. Helpful functions to put in tools.php. So, so what I've got is I've got the blue code. So this is, if you like, a function. You're declaring a function, and you put that in tools.php. And so there's the function. Just pop that in tools.php, right at the top. And you can call that function then anywhere. It could be in tools.php. There should be a good reason for it being there, but essentially when you're in index.php or in receipt.php, you can then call any function that's being created above. So the pre-show function, I sort of wrote this myself just to get some nice formatting when I'm debugging. I just type pre-show and the variable, and it will post not only the values, but also the structure that post is in, just in case I've got it wrong in my head how that variable is structured. Sometimes I might want to see what's in the session. So what happens is, and we'll be looking at this very soon, the web server can track every user and store some information on that user and keep it separate from other users that are browsing the website. So when you go to your bank, online bank, you have your own little session, and you have your own session variables that the bank will use to process and send back a response to you. And fingers crossed, you won't get anyone else's account information. If you do that, something's gone very wrong. You'll just get your account information. And it's also very good for debugging things. So if you've got a bad array, you don't know what's going on, you can sort of pre-show it, and you'll be able to see the structure as well. And sometimes you can see, why is that thing not working? Oh yeah, the pre-show function, it also has an extra parameter. So if you don't supply that, it just prints it. So it will echo the string straight away. But if you want it part of a string, just pop in true as a Boolean. So that means return a string then becomes true. And it will return the string to whoever called it, rather than echoing the string directly to the screen. And this is the function that outputs your code. So if you pop that in your footer, it also is quite helpful, because every time you run your code, you can see your code at the bottom of the screen. So you're not constantly flipping back to your code editor. And that means also if you just send me an email asking me to have a look at your code, I can go to your GitHub account and see your code, but this will give me a live version of your code. So if you've forgotten to push your code to GitHub, I'll be able to see your code live. So this is kind of like how I can look at your JavaScript and HTML. You can pop your PHP code down the bottom. So I would put that in your footer module so that it's right down the bottom of your code. And this is another function that I realized that often what I was doing, I was writing an array in PHP, and then I was having to duplicate that code into JavaScript. And if ever I made any changes in the PHP array, I would then need to update the JavaScript version. So I've included this function. It's kind of like an advanced function. You may not need it. But what it does is if you've got an array in PHP and you want a JavaScript version of it, just give it an array name. So obviously you want the variable to have a JavaScript name. And what I've got is, I've got line end here. Why have I got that there? No, why have I got that there? I think that might be code that's no longer needed. Yeah, I think that's I think we can delete that now. I don't think that needs to be there. So what this function does is it echoes out a script tag and a line feed character, and then it says var whatever your array name was. And I'm using a function called JSON encode, and I'm saying please print that out prettily. And what that will do is that will turn your array into JSON. So it basically prints out your PHP multi-dimensional array into a full JavaScript object. And then what I'm doing here is I'm just closing the script tag. I'm putting 2 carriage returns so that there's a blank line between this and the next thing you print. So when you declare that PHP array, whatever that array is, maybe it's a price array, if you want a JavaScript version, just call this function in your code, maybe in your head tag, and that will be the name of the JavaScript array. So just shout out if there are any questions on this function. And oh, that's okay. I thought there might have been a 4th function. And I've got a little bit of justification. So in assignment 3, you're doing some JavaScript validation. Checking the name, checking the numbers, checking the phone number. And you have to sort of duplicate that in PHP. And this is because obviously JavaScript can be hacked. So all the honest users, you've got no problems with them, but the dishonest users will try and turn JavaScript off and try and submit things to your website. So what you need is a second goalkeeper on the server to actually stop any invalid data coming through. So markers will do a couple of things to try and break into your PHP code. And hopefully your PHP code will catch any attempts to submit faulty data to your website. One thing I just thought, just to keep the programming load a little bit low, if you don't need to place duplicate error messages. The only time something will happen is if someone is hacking into your website or someone hasn't got JavaScript running. So I don't want you to spend too much time redoing the error messages. But if you like, this might be a little bit fun. You can just have a message somewhere saying stop hacking our website. And you can indicate just quickly to the marker you are double checking them server side. So the trick is, this is a little bit like eating food. So when you receive post data from someone's booking form, you want to just double check it, make sure nothing gets past the back of your throat, so to speak. You only want to place validated data into the session, and definitely only valid data into your spreadsheet. So we're going to be trying to insert faulty data into your session and then again into your spreadsheets. And I've got some charts of how this should flow, but this will make more sense in the coming weeks, especially this we'll be covering this in detail next week. I'll just close that off because I would like to cover that in more detail next week. Substitute. Yeah, so that's pretty much everything I was going to cover in PHP in week 1. Or week 9, sorry, the first week of PHP. So I'm happy to answer questions on the PHP content, or if you've had a chance to think about your JavaScript assignments. Sorry, the JavaScript in your assignment. I'm happy to answer some questions or help you with any problems you're having at the moment. I was just remembered another thing I was thinking of saying. At the moment, I'm getting some requests from students. They're saying they've got some problems, but when I go to the web page, there are some different errors in the console, and I was thinking it might be safer if you were to save a copy. If you've got a problem with your code, I was thinking it might be a good idea to save a copy of your file and give it a slightly different name, like index for trev or something like that. Just so when I have a look at it, I am looking at the same errors you're looking at. And if you then you're then free to continue working on your page, knowing that I will see the errors that you were having trouble with. So okay, so Tim, you've asked a good question. So so why are there hidden fields in assignment 3? So what I want to do is I want to have a kind of like a hidden functionality. Let me just open assignment 3. Make that big. I think I've got there's the Oh, oh no, that's in assignment 2. Sorry, let me just get the right assignment loaded. So I've got the synopsis area. So have I got the preview of the booking area? What's wrong with that? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll play that. Google. So assignment 2, assignment 3. Should be a diagram here. Right, so I'll just open this field, this form, and move this one over here. Hopefully that's not too small, but if you're following on screen, so this panel will be essentially above this panel. Maybe make this narrower. So yes, so when you've finished, get that kind of right, line them up. Oh, audio issues. I'm just seeing noticing there some audio problems. I'll wait for you to tell me that everything's okay. Okay, so what the user will see is they'll see this synopsis area, and they'll read the plot description, they may play the movie trailer, and they think, this sounds great. I'm going to make a booking for, say, Wednesday, 3 p.m. And when they click this button here, what I want to have happen is this area gets updated with whatever this button means. So if this is Dumbo on Wednesday at 3 p.m., then the hidden fields here will be movie ideas, animation, day is Wednesday, time is T12. Another thing, like some students will think about is, well, this text also needs to change. So as you're clicking these different buttons, these also need to change. So that's another feature. So what it means is you're not asking the customers to make more than one selection. So you just click on the button. The flow is, you click the poster. This shows up. Then they've already picked their movie. So it's a bit like Crown's Casino. They pick the movie. Now they want to pick a time that it's playing, and then they want to come down and select how many seats they want. So at no point are we asking them to make more than one choice. We're not asking them to restate what choices they've already made. So Tim, I hope that's answered your question. So the hidden fields are hidden because customers don't need to see them. But it might be nice to update this text so that customers can see that the information has changed. Now, Samuel, you've asked an interesting question. You've done some research, and all you can find are jQuery based solutions. No, you only need to use JavaScript, and any jQuery is actually based on JavaScript. So jQuery just calls JavaScript. So if you're having trouble doing something in JavaScript, let me know what it is, and I can sort of give you a little pointer to that. Benjamin, you're asking for some direction modifying a month field. So let me just get brackets back out there. So if you imagine each one of these buttons, they'll have an on-click event listener. So when I click this button, what I want it to do is call this function update booking, and I will have hard-coded. When I say hard-coded, I mean either me typing or PHP generated, depending on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go. And I will pass these parameters. So before I was saying this was Dumbo, let's just imagine it's the action movie. So I want to pass the correct movie ID, the correct day, and also the correct time to this function. And then this function update booking will update the value of each one of these hidden fields, which you know, they're around here somewhere, but they're hidden so you can't see them. So Samuel, you just updated. It's the focus on the nav element when scrolling. My solution last week actually gives you a fully plain JavaScript solution. So how I'm doing it in the solution I posted last week was I'm adding a class called active to the button that should be the active button. Did I call it active or did I call it current? I'm not sure. I think I did say active. Maybe, yeah, I think it was active. So have another look at my solution. It is quite simple. But the solution is, let me just check. I think it's in the, where did I put it? Oh yes, it's in the assignments folder. So if you just right click on that file, open with Google Chrome, you'll get to see the code. Oh, why did that get big? So as you're scrolling, it's doing that. And view the page source. It's here we go. Any hyperlink inside the navigation element that's got the class active, I want to apply different styles. And I even threw in a quick transition just to make it a little bit more sexy. And the code is here. So window on scroll equals this function. And there's definitely no jQuery in there. And what I'm just doing is going through the list, making sure active is added to the link that needs to be active, and any other link active is removed from show. So I'm really sorry about all these audio glitches now. I'll definitely be bringing my mic in just in case that's what's going on. Now, Benjamin, you're saying, sorry, I meant the HTML month field. Oh, okay. So what you're looking at is getting the is it min or max? The maximum month date field equal to, say, the current month. So you can't pick an expiry date in the past. I'm saying this because I need to just get it clear in my head what you're after. So yeah, let's have a look at that. That'll be a little bit fun. So I might pull up W3 Schools here. They have tried editors. So just typing date. Date reference. Date methods, that will probably give us a good start. Okay, so what this is doing, this is get new date, setting the full year. Don't need to do that. Let's see how that changes. So we've now got the current time, so that's a lot of information. So let's have a look. Okay, that's set. Oh, okay, we want the get methods. Oh, actually, I'm really glad I pulled up this page. There's something really stupid in JavaScript. It annoys me no end. If you want to get the date, as in the day, so if you want the 1st of January and you want the number 1, you have to use get date to get that day. So that's nice. That returns a number between 1 and 31. Totally fine. I don't know, some idiot messed up the month. So if you want January, really you want a function that returns 1, but their function returns 0. They're out by 1. And this is so upsetting. It annoys my OCD. It really does. So let's go back to this triad editor. So what I want to do is I want to use the get month and get full year. Yeah, I want the get full year. So so let's have a space in quotes. I am not pushing the keys correctly today. D get year or full year. Let's see how that's going. Oh wow, I've really messed that up. Oh, okay. You can't say the field, say 01. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely help you with that. Oh, round brackets, Trevor. Round brackets. Okay, so this is a good one. So we've got this problem. So we got the 6th, 2019. So so I'll just skip ahead. So we need to swap full year. Control X. Come on, Trev. Hit the right key. So I'm getting the full year and getting the month. And instead of a space, is it a dash? I'm just having trouble remembering. I think the max attribute is 2019 dash something, isn't it? Let's have a look back at I know in PHP you can do this quite easily. PHP, I think, has got a function that returns the month as a 2-digit number. But yeah, JavaScript's a little bit rudimentary in this. So one thing we can do is so var month equals the string 0 plus dgetMonth. This is not a full solution, I'll just say that. And I'll say month there. Hopefully that works for now. So that's good. There's just one small problem. When we get to October, that will read 010. So what we need to do is we need to do another thing. So we need to say left. Oh no, is it right? Let me just see if this works. SQL, no. No, okay, let's have a look for string functions. Where are we? I'm in the right place. Let me just see where I am. JavaScript strings. Just looking for the functions. Okay. Am I skipping over the functions link? I'll try that again. Sorry, methods. Keep forgetting. This is more like it. So I'm going to look for yes, here we go. If a parameter is negative, the position is counted from the end of the string. So I think we need to say string slice. I wonder if it's -1. I'm going to see if that's the case. Let me just check this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The trick is to basically go back to like 1. Oh, I'm jumping in too early there. So I'll either have a 2-character string or a 3-character string, and then say month equals month. Where are we? Slice. That might work. Let me just check. So I'll just sort of put in an extra 0, see if that works. Good. So no matter how many zeros are here, it will only return the last 2 digits. So Benjamin, is that kind of what you're looking for? So that should not fail now. So when we get to October, November, December, you should get 2019 dash the correct month. Oh, and also, my bad, this is saying 07. So we need to say, this is the final bit that annoys me no end. Get month plus 1. So now it's working. So wrap them up in quotes. So it evaluates this one first, then that will get passed as a string because you're adding a number to a string, so it'll assume it's a number. I mean a string, I think. So I'll get rid of all those zeros. So I was just testing it that it did work, and I think that'll be a good solution. So Robert, you saying you've got a regex that matches the 16 numbers, but if you keep entering numbers, it won't revert back. That's interesting. So are you using JavaScript or is it a in the pattern attribute? Let's have a look at that. Let me just highlight your question. Just so I don't lose it when the text goes up. So it's in JavaScript. Okay. Are you calling it on blur or on change? No, but if it's changing, it should. So if it's JavaScript, you can call it on input, but that means as soon as you start typing, it tells you straight away that it's not right. So sometimes it's nicer to wait for a blur event, wait for the person to stop typing, and then let them have a go. Okay, so Nathan, yep, I'll definitely see you next week. If you're worried about if you find when you keep pressing numbers it keeps going, check just do a console log. Just verify that the function is being called. And maybe you want to have an if then else just to verify why the function is not failing. So if you're using JavaScript, you have to pop in the full string. So I'll just make that a little bit bigger. So you have to pop in the start of the string and the end of the string. So it might be detecting a substring that's matching, let's just say the right number of digits. But when you're using pattern, that is by default a full a full strain. Yeah, I think the on input event may be slightly more reliable, but I still think as long as you're not changing the input. Yeah, I would switch to on input if you want it to be in real time. So there is a slight glitch, but I'd be surprised that you get more than one extra digit in there before it's called. I'm just looking at Tim's comment. The JS book you're reading has the same complaint. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It's definitely a different team, because they say the first day is 1, there is no 0, but for some reason the 0th month is January. Oh, just a little piece of advice. If you email me and I say I will definitely have a look when I get in to RMIT or get home, and I don't email you within 24 hours, please send me a reminder email. My day consists of having time at my computer and just getting completely distracted by people asking me questions. And sometimes in my head, I think I've answered someone's question or replied to someone's email. So I just thought I'd raise it because I was talking to a student and they felt someone was ignoring them, the teacher, and I said, no, sometimes we think we reply to a student, but we don't. So don't feel you're being rude. If I haven't responded to a question when I said I was going to, just send me another email, and that will prompt me to recheck. We're just going through start of semester 2, and lots of little things keep popping up and distracting me from trying to get through my to-do list. Oh wow, we're coming up to 9:30 already. So and another thing, please feel free to ask these questions on forums as well. I know there's an issue with posting code into forums. You don't want to give too much away. But I am currently in the practice of just posting. Whenever I see a good question, if I think lots of students will benefit, I will sort of post a modified version to Canvas. So keep an eye on Canvas. I am posting things to Canvas. Oh, Tim, I just got an email from you. I'm glad I solved that problem for you. Okay, so well, I'll close to tonight's session, and I promise you I will be keeping an eye on the email and discussion boards, because I know we're coming up to an assignment deadline. Oh, another thing is, I have received a few pings for assignment extension requests. Unless you've written a really bad excuse for an extension, you'll probably get one. It's just me taking time to get around to it. Everyone has the weekend, just to let you know. You can have the weekend, just don't rely on the weekend, just in case servers aren't working correctly. But aim for Friday, 23:59. But I will move the deadline just so that the penalty period again starts from 4 a.m., 4 in the morning on Monday. But I'm just keeping the deadline at Friday just for psychological reasons, just to keep you on track, so to speak. So so I'll start closing these windows whilst I'm waiting for any last minute questions. Oops, one hiding there. Oh. Okay, so good night, everyone. And I'm going to run and see if I can catch this train in 10 minutes. And when I get home, I'll send out an email to all the students I wanted to email, and hopefully we'll have something within the next day or so, having a look at some of the good assignments, and some of the almost good assignments as well. Okay, Alexander, that's a great visual for me to take home with me.